Hello, everybody. Good morning. How are you? And welcome to Women Lead TV, brought to you by Connected Women of Influence. And hello to anybody that is listening to our recording. My name is Ana Nieto, and the name of our show series is Manifesting Magnetic Mindfulness. Today, we're going to be talking about intuition. How much fun is that? And we have our special guest today, which is Victoria Shaw, a dear friend and business colleague. And she knows a lot about intuition. So I know that she's going to give us a lot of great information about that. Hello, Victoria. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited.
Yes, I am too. Always happy to have this conversation with you because you are definitely having a lot of wisdom on the subject. I just want to tell people about you for whoever doesn't know you that is here right now. Victoria is a PhD and intuitive counselor and a spiritual coach who combines a very, very deep Ivy League training in psychology and counseling with intuitive guidance to help clients heal, grow, and realize their full spiritual and personal potential. She takes a holistic approach to counseling, addressing clients' concerns on the mind, body, and spiritual levels. And she especially loves working with people who are committed to using their life experiences or struggles, I love this, to feel their own spiritual awakening. Isn't that true? We can do that all the time, right? And I didn't know this, but now I know that you are the author of 4 books and the host, of course, of your Intuitive Connection podcast, as well as the star of Living an Alignment on Soul Search TV network and the founder of Cactus Blossom Retreat in Escondido, which I love. Your retreat is one of my favorite places in the area where I facilitated and attended. So, Victoria, welcome to our show. And I just want to start by saying that I'm so excited again about our conversation. And I know one of the things that you said about intuition is that it's the best tool that we have to navigate all aspects of our life. And that's how you help your clients with it. So you've been teaching this for 15 years. I want to ask you, how did you develop your intuition? And what is intuition from your perspective?
All right, let me start with the first question since that's like the center of our conversation. The way that I understand intuition is kind of from a spiritual perspective. You don't have to have that perspective, but that's how I roll. That we're all spiritual beings and we're having this human experience. And when we come into the human world, we kind of forget a lot of the stuff that our soul knows. But our soul doesn't forget about us. It holds all of the memory, all of this wider awareness. And your intuition is that part of you that remembers, and that part of you that's connected to that wiser mind that we all have. And my training is as a research psychologist. So in psychology, they often think of intuition as the dumb cousin of intellect, right? Like we have this great power of logical thinking, but we're also picking up all this information that, we can't really use, we can't really, make conscious decisions. So a lot of the work happens beneath the scenes. And a lot of times it's good, sometimes it's not. And that's why you need the power of your mind to sort it all out. And I really see it the other way around. I really see that a lot of what people talk about in psychology and, back in my old background is sort of the intellect is really that dumb cousin. It's really like your mind is a great pattern matcher and it can make interpretations based on what happened in the past and then make some predictions about what will happen in the future. And it's a really good tool to have if you want to participate in this human world, which we all do, but it's not where any of the real insights or inspiration or creativity or wisdom comes from. All of that comes through your intuition. So that when we can learn to tap into that, then our mind becomes a beautiful tool or servant for our higher mind and our inner wisdom. And that's when life, for me at least, and for many of my clients, gets really exciting and purposeful and enjoyable and magical and all the things that we all pretty much want more of in our lives.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what comes to mind, because we are talking here, right, about intuition to a group of especially women that are in Connected Women of Influence, but in general, that are highly using their strategic mind, right, for their business. And what we are talking about here is like, no, intuition is a much more powerful tool when we actually learn to use it. So is everybody intuitive? How can somebody that uses their strategic mind as their strongest and tool, right, can maybe see a different perspective on that?
Yeah, that is such a good question, and I love how you phrased it. First of all, yes, everyone is intuitive because we're all spiritual beings having this human experience, and there's not a single person on earth that doesn't have that connection to their intuition. Now, for some of us, it's front and center, like it is for me, and some people even have like psychic experiences, right? But we all have this multisensory knowing, and we all have this connection back to, our deeper truth, our wiser mind. And here's the thing too, a lot of times, because we've all been trained that the mind is so important and the mind is the way that we're allowed to know things, a lot of time what happens is we think we're using our strategic mind, and we might be creating a lot of smoke and mirrors with that, and sometimes we're even slowing things down by overthinking. But a lot of times, those great insights that we have, those synchronicities where things align, those, real creative moments, our mind takes credit for them, but they did not come from our mind. Okay. And I'd want to pause for people to hear that because it's so powerful and so important. A lot of times, your mind is just taking credit for what your intuition is giving you all the time. So I always invite people to see, like, where am I really in the flow creatively? What are things in my life I've been rewarded for that seem to kind of come naturally to me? What are some of the great things that I brought into my life? What are my gifts? Because all of those things come from your spirit, soul, your higher self, more than your human self. And we've just been taught that we got to give the human self credit and we have to give the mind credit. And, we have to show how hard we worked to make these things happen. But oftentimes that's not how they happened at all.
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, right? That we give credit to some places sometimes that are not the ones that need to take the credit. That makes
Yeah.
sense. I mean, we can confuse, right, our strategic mind with actually coming from our intuition. For me, it's a gut feeling. I know for other people, it comes from other places. For me, it's more a gut feeling,
Right.
which actually makes me think about this question I was going to ask you. Like, how do we differentiate? I think that's one of the things that most of us can get a little hung up sometimes. And like, is this my intuition? Is it fear? Is it wishful thinking? Is my mind creating this? Am I creating this, right? Or is it coming from actually a place that it goes above what I can actually even imagine, right? I can do for myself.
Yeah. And that's like the number one question that I get from people that are really wanting to use their intuition more deliberately rather than having it be a backstage partner that they sometimes hear. And sometimes, they talk over. And so they don't get the messages as clearly or quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a bunch of different ways to discern. For one thing, if you're trying to figure it out, you're in your mind. So just take a step back, let it go. The hunch will come again, the nudge will come again. So this isn't something that you can think your way through, right? Intuition is about allowing, it's about knowing, it's a deeper kind of knowing than we know with our mind. But there are some tools and tips for kind of telling the difference. Number one is your intuition is always emotionally neutral or almost always emotionally neutral because it comes from a place that we don't have emotions. So if you're having like a lot of fear, if you're having a lot of anxiety, if you're having, sometimes even jazzed up, juiced up, like, I know this is the thing, and you're just trying to push it to make it happen, like, I really want this so bad, it must be right. Whew, that's usually your mind and not your intuition. Okay. And even in times when I've had an intuitive nudge or an intuitive download of something that maybe my egoic mind, my personality wouldn't really like, the initial hit was always very clear and emotionally neutral. So that's a real important one. Sometimes what happens is that we get that initial nudge and then we start thinking about it and we get ourselves, all in a twirl. But initially, always your intuition is clear, it's calm, it's loving. If you have that inner voice in your head and you think that, that voice in your head that's telling you, what a fork up you are, what a mess you are, how you should do this, how you made a mistake with that. Even saying that makes my energy sink a little bit. That is not your intuition. I always say if it's unkind, it's your mind because your intuition comes from your soul, your higher self, right? And over there, your soul loves the pants off of you. It's all love. It's all positivity. I often say you are love incarnate. So nothing that comes from that side of the veil has any, just loves you, is patient with you. So if that voice in your head is feeling any kind of judgment, at all in any way, shape, or form, it's not coming from your intuition, because there's no judgment where your intuition comes from.
Hmm. Yeah, as you're talking, what I'm thinking is like it needs to feel comfortable. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm getting from it. That if it's creating you any kind of reaction in your body or just any fear, as you were saying, or is definitely not coming from that pure intuition. That's beautiful. It's a good way. It's a good test to.
Yeah.
So, Victoria, before we continue with some more questions that I have here for us and conversation I want to have with you, I also want to share how people can find you, or if there's anything that you would like to give them. I know you have a podcast, perhaps that would be a good way to get to listen to you more and what you have to tell about intuition and many other subjects that you talk about, right, in your
Yes.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. So the podcast is Intuitive Connection. We are 4 years in and over 200 episodes. And it's my passion project. I love it so much. I teach about intuition development. I teach about the law of attraction, which is another big topic that I love to cover. I have a lot of amazing guests, and I also do intuitive readings on the show. So you get like a real taste for all things intuition. And I also have a TV show that's going to release on October 4th through the Soul Search platform. And then from there, you can also find it on Amazon, Roku, and Apple TV. It's called Living in Alignment with Dr. Victoria Shaw. And that's sort of a more comprehensive look at how we can live more aligned with our soul, how we can live with more joy, more ease, more abundance, more grace, more fun, more peace. And it's 8 beautiful souls that agreed to come for intuitive guidance. And we follow them through their stories, and we learn from that. So it's really fun. I'm so excited about that one. And then I do lots of teaching both online and in person here in San Diego. My next big class isn't launching till 2025, but it's Your Intuitive Biz. So it's all the ways that we can use intuition in our business lives, because so many people I found get so weighted down with all the shoulds in building that business. And I've had people spend like tens of thousands of dollars and still feel like they're just, they're spinning. They don't know what to do. So this is a way for people to really hear what their next best steps are, what their talents and skills are, because intuition will always tell you what's best and true for you in the now. And though a teaching can point you in that direction, it can't do that for you as well as your intuition. So I'm excited to teach that class. It'll start in January of 2025. And then I offer intuitive readings, both in person to people all over the globe.
Nice. I love that class. That sounds super interesting and exciting. Again, especially for our group, about business. Yeah. You're talking about the power of the moment, right? And now, and it's interesting because this weekend I went to a silent retreat, and that was what happened for me. It was like deepening a little bit more that appreciation of the being in the now, which you're connecting that with intuition, which makes a lot of sense. Yeah. When we're in the now, we are in that intuitive space, right?
Yeah. The intuition works best when you're present, when your mind is soft, right? Because that's our soul's resting state. So when we are there and the mind stills, that's where we get all the gold. And, you come in and out of that state all the time. So some people do connect with their intuition through meditation or from being, I love to walk at the beach or go for a hike, or some people like to run or drive, like places where your mind just naturally quiets down. But we go in and out of that present state all the time. And so you have to kind of catch yourself being present, and then it'll expand. And that's where intuition always flows through. That's when we can hear it the best.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you next, like, what are the ways to develop more your intuition? And that feels like has a direct access to it, right? What else can you share about that you feel is important?
Intention, set the intention. What we focus on, what we ask for grows. So the best way to do everything, including awakening your intuition, is just set that intention, right? If this interests you and you're like, oh my gosh, now I'm really thinking I want to use this more. Well, you just did it. You just took the first step. I think you're already 85 to 90% of the way there, because when we set an intention, what we do is we marshal all of the forces of the universe to align with us and to respond to us and to give us what we desire. And so You set the intention and then you use your intuition, which is already working for you, to feel into what your next best steps will be. And it'll always work that way. And then you have to kind of get out of the way too. Don't try too hard. Don't push too hard. Look for those moments of stillness. Practice things again that quiet your mind, because when you learn to find that still spot, that's when your intuition flourishes. And the other thing that really helps us connect to our intuition, and this is sometimes the hardest one, you have to let go of the need to know. Wait, what? You have to let go of the need to know, because intuition comes from that space of not knowing with your mind. So you have to let that mind go soft. You have to let go of the need to have an answer. You have to let go of the need to have a specific answer. And that's where, ironically enough, the answers will flow.
Yeah. I know you're asking, right, those difficult questions of like getting yourself out of the way and
Yeah.
just waiting, just waiting for the answer. That's
Yeah.
always
It'll
that.
often come really fast. For
Mhm.
me, it's sometimes just a moment of just tapping in and letting go. I've been doing this for a long time and I do it professionally, but really we can all get to that state. We've all been in that state. I've never met anyone who hasn't known something that they didn't know how they knew and it was right. I have not met anyone who has not had that experience. We all have it. It's just learning to work with it a little more deliberately.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you something that is coming to mind, which I think might be a fun question. Do you think that intuition can be wrong?
No. Mm-mm.
Cannot be
So
wrong.
I did a whole podcast episode on this.
I want
And
to hear about that.
I
Yeah.
asked my spiritual support team, because that's what I do. Can intuition be wrong? And the answer that I got, and this really resonates with me, is intuition always tells you what's correct in the now, right? What's true for you. It's your truth. What's the next best step for you? What will bring you joy? What will feel purposeful? Whatever you're asking, intuition will always give you that answer. What is most accurate, true for you in the now? The now is a moving target. So, right, if you think about intuition like a GPS and you're driving your car and you get off the highway, the answer just changed in terms of how to get to your destination, right? If you took the wrong exit, it's going to recalibrate. But it's always telling you what's true in the now. Where we get confused, right, is in that discernment, in understanding the nudges and the information that we're getting, and also in interpreting it. And sometimes we talk over it too, right? We think something's our intuition and it's not, or we get an initial intuitive hit or download and then, we overthink it. So that's where we can run into trouble. But the initial intuitive nudge is never wrong. It's always aligned. But, here in our human skin, sometimes we misinterpret it.
Yeah, that's the one. That was a beautiful way to put it as well. And like coming back to the conversation before, right, that it needs to feel comfortable. If that initial feels, and then we can overthink it, but it's something that it lands and it feels pure and it feels clean, right? That's the one we can go for. And if you don't have the clarity, you can always call Victoria to help you with it, right?
Absolutely. I have my own people that I call, because sometimes when we are so overthinking and so in our own, just enmeshed in our problems, sometimes it's really helpful to have somebody else come in. And oftentimes when I give a reading, people will say, I was hearing that, I knew that, but like now I feel validated. Right. And then every once in a while, it's something surprising too, because sometimes, when we're in our own lives, we have this myopia and we're just, focusing in on the one little thing. And sometimes we need someone else to go, wait, zoom out.
And see the whole picture. That's beautiful.
Yeah. But then you always know within, I always tell people, take what resonates with you in a reading, because that's your intuition telling you what to run with.
Yeah, I know I've had readings with you, and that's typically what you say and what I do, what is important, right? That you need to keep. So Victoria, in this maybe just a minute or two, is there anything else that you feel is important to share that we haven't shared yet, or any last thoughts or comments that you would like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, just for everybody to know that you are an intuitive being, that every amazing thing that you've streamed into your life, believe it or not, came to you because on some level you were listening to your inner wisdom. And if you could learn to do that even more, then all of those beautiful intellectual gifts that you have, and I have many, right? I have 3 advanced degrees and from really fancy schools. But all of that training now, it no longer slows me down, because I've learned to use that in service of that wiser part of myself. And that's when the party really gets started. So I invite all of you guys to do that too.
Well, let's get the party started. I
Yeah.
like that. That's a good way to end our chapter today. And thank you so much, Victoria, for being here today. Really appreciate of your wisdom and everything that you've shared. Thank you for all our viewers for watching and listening later. And it's been definitely my pleasure to be your host today. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again.